What if I told you that nearly a century ago, a man who could see into the very fabric of human consciousness discovered 6 secrets that could transform any mature woman into an absolutely magnetic force? A woman so irresistible that people would be drawn to her like moths to a flame, not because of her youth or conventional beauty, but because of something far more powerful. Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, channeled over 14,000 psychic readings during his lifetime. But hidden within his vast collection of spiritual insights were specific revelations about feminine magnetism that most people have never heard. And today, I'm going to share with you the 6 habits he discovered that make a mature woman absolutely irresistible. But here's the thing. These aren't the habits you think they are. In fact, habit number 4 is so counterintuitive that it goes against everything modern society tells us about attractiveness. Yet Edgar Cayce said it was the most powerful of all. Stay with me, because by the end of this presentation, you'll understand why some women seem to become more captivating with age, while others fade into the background. Before we dive into these life-changing habits, let me tell you something about Edgar Cayce that will blow your mind. This man, born in 1877 in rural Kentucky, possessed an ability that defied all logic and scientific understanding. When he entered a trance-like state, he could diagnose illnesses, predict future events, and access information about human nature that seemed to come from a higher source. Edgar Cayce said that true beauty and magnetism had nothing to do with physical appearance and everything to do with the alignment of mind, body, and spirit. He discovered that mature women possessed unique advantages that younger women simply couldn't access, advantages that, when properly cultivated, created an irresistible aura of wisdom, sensuality, and power. According to Edgar Cayce, there was one fundamental truth about feminine magnetism that changed everything he thought he knew about attraction. And this truth becomes more powerful as a woman matures. But before I reveal what that is, you need to understand the first habit that creates the foundation for everything else. Habit 1. Cultivating inner radiance through spiritual alignment. Edgar Cayce discovered that the most irresistible women possessed what he called inner radiance, a luminous quality that emanated from deep spiritual alignment. But here's what's fascinating, this radiance actually intensifies with age and experience. In reading 257 to 249, Edgar Cayce said, "The beauty of the soul shines forth when there is harmony between the mental, physical, and spiritual aspects of self." He understood that mature women had lived through enough experiences to develop this harmony in ways that younger women simply couldn't. But wait, there's a specific practice Edgar Cayce recommended that takes only 7 minutes each morning, yet it can transform your entire energetic presence. Women who do this consistently report that strangers begin approaching them, complimenting them, and treating them differently within weeks. According to Edgar Cayce, this practice involves connecting with what he called the creative force within. Every morning, before the world demands your attention, you create a sacred space for silence. Not meditation, not prayer in the traditional sense, but something he called attunement. Here's exactly what Edgar Cayce discovered works. Sit quietly and place your hands over your heart. Breathe slowly and imagine a warm, golden light beginning to glow in your chest. Edgar Cayce said this light represents your connection to the divine feminine energy that exists in all women, but becomes more accessible and powerful with maturity. As you breathe, allow this light to expand throughout your body. Cayce believed that this practice literally changes your molecular vibration, making you more attractive to others on an energetic level. Science is now beginning to catch up with what Edgar Cayce knew intuitively, that our emotional and spiritual states create measurable electromagnetic fields that others can sense. But here's where it gets really interesting. Edgar Cayce said that mature women who practice this alignment don't just become more attractive, they become selective magnets, drawing in only people and experiences that serve their highest good. And that leads us to the second habit, which is about the power of mysterious reserve. Because Edgar Cayce discovered that the most irresistible women understood something about energy that most people never learn. Habit 2, Mastering the Art of Mysterious Reserve. Edgar Cayce said something profound about feminine magnetism that contradicts everything our culture teaches us. He discovered that the most irresistible women were not the ones who revealed everything about themselves, but rather those who mastered what he called selective revelation. In reading 1436-2, Edgar Cayce explained that mature women possess a natural advantage here because they've learned through experience that true power comes not from exposure, but from depth. They understand that mystery isn't about being secretive or manipulative, it's about having layers of richness that can be discovered over time. But there's a specific technique Edgar Cayce recommended that most women get completely wrong. In fact, when done incorrectly, it can actually repel people instead of attracting them. The difference lies in understanding what Edgar Cayce called the 80-20 revelation principle. According to Edgar Cayce, irresistible women reveal about 80% of their personality, thoughts, and experiences freely, but they always keep 20% in reserve. This isn't about playing games, it's about honoring your own depth and complexity. Edgar Cayce discovered that people are naturally drawn to what they can't fully understand or predict. Here's how this works in real life: when someone asks about your past, you share interesting stories but not every detail. When discussing your dreams and goals, you paint the vision but keep some of the deeper motivations private until trust is earned. Edgar Cayce said this creates what he called magnetic tension. People feel drawn to discover more about you. But mature women have a secret weapon here that younger women don't possess. Edgar Cayce discovered that life experience creates natural depth and complexity. You've lived through challenges, transformations, relationships, losses, and victories. This gives you genuine mystery because you genuinely have layers to discover. However, Edgar Cayce warned that mystery without the third habit becomes merely aloofness. The third habit is what transforms mysterious reserve into irresistible magnetism. And this one might surprise you, because it's about embracing something that society tells mature women to hide. Habit 3, embracing authentic sensuality. Now, before your mind goes somewhere it shouldn't, let me clarify what Edgar Cayce meant by sensuality. He wasn't talking about sexuality in the way most people think. Edgar Cayce discovered that true sensuality was about being fully alive in your physical body and connected to your five senses. According to Edgar Cayce, mature women who embraced their authentic sensuality became irresistible because they operated from a place of complete self-acceptance and bodily awareness. In reading 288-37, he said, "The body beautiful is the body that is alive to its own divine nature." But here's what society doesn't want you to know: your sensuality doesn't diminish with age, it deepens and becomes more refined. Edgar Cayce said that mature women who understood this possessed a magnetism that was far more powerful than youthful inexperience. Think about it, you know your body better now than you ever have. You understand what brings you pleasure, what makes you feel alive, what textures, scents, and experiences awaken your senses. Edgar Cayce discovered that when a woman operates from this place of sensual awareness, she becomes irresistibly attractive because she's completely present and alive. Edgar Cayce recommended specific practices for cultivating this authentic sensuality. Start by paying attention to textures. Really feel the fabric of your clothes against your skin. Notice the temperature of the air, the scent of your environment, the taste of your food. He said that women who are fully present in their sensual experience radiate an energy that others find magnetic. But there's more. Edgar Cayce discovered that mature women who embraced their sensuality without shame or apology developed what he called confident presence. You've earned every line, every curve, every change in your body through living fully. When you embrace this truth instead of fighting it, Edgar Cayce said, you become irresistible because you're operating from radical self-acceptance. However, Edgar Cayce warned that sensuality without wisdom could become self-indulgent. That's why the fourth habit is perhaps the most important of all. And I warned you earlier, this one is completely counterintuitive. Most women do the exact opposite of what Edgar Cayce discovered actually works. Habit 4, the power of selfless service. Are you ready for this? Edgar Cayce discovered that the most irresistible mature women were those who had learned to genuinely serve others while maintaining strong boundaries. I know, this sounds completely backwards in our self-focused culture. But stay with me, because this is where Edgar Cayce's insights become truly revolutionary. In reading 3976-15, Edgar Cayce said something that changed everything: she who gives of herself in service to others, while maintaining her own divine nature, becomes a channel for the creative force itself. He discovered that when mature women operated from genuine service, they became magnetic because they were literally channeling a higher power. But here's the crucial distinction Edgar Cayce made, and this is where most women get it wrong. There's a massive difference between selfless service and self-sacrificing martyrdom. Edgar Cayce said that martyrs repel people because they operate from lack and neediness. True servants attract people because they operate from abundance and strength. Think about the most magnetic woman you know. I bet she's someone who lights up when she's helping others, who seems to effortlessly make everyone around her feel seen and valued. Edgar Cayce discovered that this isn't coincidence, it's spiritual law in action. According to Edgar Cayce, when a mature woman serves others from a place of genuine love and wisdom, not obligation or guilt, she becomes a conduit for divine energy. People are drawn to her because they can sense that being around her somehow makes them better versions of themselves. But here's the key: Edgar Cayce emphasized that this service must come from your unique gifts and passions. A mature woman knows what she's good at, what brings her joy, and how she can best contribute to the world. When you serve from this place of authentic strength, people are irresistibly drawn to your energy. Maybe you're a natural nurturer who makes everyone feel welcomed and loved. Perhaps you're a wise counselor who helps people see solutions to their problems. Maybe you're a creative force who inspires others to dream bigger. Edgar Cayce said that when you fully embrace and share your unique gifts, you become magnetic because you're fulfilling your soul's purpose. But Edgar Cayce also discovered something that will shock you about service and attraction. He found that mature women who served others actually became more desirable to romantic partners, not less. Why? Because confident, purposeful people are inherently attractive. When you know who you are and what you're here to contribute, you radiate a kind of unshakable confidence that Edgar Cayce said was irresistible. However, service without the fifth habit can lead to burnout and resentment. The fifth habit is what Edgar Cayce called the guardian of your light, and it's something that many mature women struggle with because they've been conditioned to believe it's selfish. Habit 5. Sacred boundary setting. Edgar Cayce made a discovery about boundaries that revolutionized everything he understood about feminine magnetism. He found that the most irresistible mature women were not the most accommodating or agreeable, they were the ones who had crystal clear boundaries and the courage to maintain them with grace. In reading 1602-3, Edgar Cayce said, "She who knows her worth and guards it wisely becomes precious in the eyes of all who encounter her." He understood that boundaries aren't walls that keep people out, they're gates that allow the right people in while protecting your energy from those who would drain it. Now, I know what you might be thinking. But won't having strong boundaries make me seem cold or unapproachable? Edgar Cayce discovered exactly the opposite. He found that women with healthy boundaries were more attractive because they appeared confident, self-respecting, and mentally strong. Here's what Edgar Cayce knew that most people don't: boundaries actually create more intimacy, not less. When people know exactly where they stand with you, they feel safe to be authentic. When you're clear about what you will and won't accept, you attract people who respect and value you. According to Edgar Cayce, mature women have a natural advantage here because life has taught them the cost of poor boundaries. You've probably experienced the exhaustion that comes from saying yes when you mean no, the resentment that builds when people take advantage of your kindness, the drain on your energy when you allow toxic people to remain in your space. Edgar Cayce recommended what he called boundary blessing, the practice of setting limits with love rather than anger. Instead of saying, "You always interrupt me and it's rude," you might say, "I'd love to hear what you have to say after I finish my thought." Same boundary, completely different energy. But here's where Edgar Cayce's insight becomes truly profound. He discovered that when mature women set boundaries from a place of self-love rather than self-protection, they become irresistible because they model what healthy self-respect looks like. People are drawn to those who demonstrate how to honor themselves while still being loving and kind to others. Edgar Cayce also said something that might surprise you about boundaries and romance. He found that mature women who maintained strong boundaries actually attracted higher quality partners who were looking for equals, not projects. But this leads us to the sixth and final habit, the one Edgar Cayce called the crown jewel of feminine magnetism. Habit 6, cultivating timeless wisdom. This is it, the habit that Edgar Cayce said separated truly irresistible mature women from everyone else. He called it, cultivating timeless wisdom, and it's something that can only be developed through life experience, reflection, and spiritual growth. Edgar Cayce discovered that mature women possessed a unique form of wisdom that younger women simply couldn't access. This wasn't book knowledge or intellectual information, it was what he called, lived wisdom, the kind that comes from having navigated relationships, career challenges, losses, victories, and personal transformations. In reading 5756-4, Edgar Cayce said something that still gives me chills: the woman who has transformed her pain into wisdom, her experience into understanding, and her knowledge into compassion becomes a beacon of light that draws others like ships to a safe harbor. According to Edgar Cayce, this wisdom manifests in several ways that make mature women irresistibly attractive. First, they've developed emotional intelligence through experience. They can read people, situations, and energy in ways that younger people often can't. This makes them fascinating conversationalists and trusted advisors. But here's what's really powerful: Edgar Cayce discovered that mature women who had done their inner work possessed what he called integrated wisdom. They had learned to see patterns, to understand human nature, to offer perspective that comes only from having lived through multiple cycles of challenge and growth. Think about it: you've loved and lost, succeeded and failed, hoped and been disappointed, dreamed and achieved. Each experience has added layers to your understanding of life. When you speak from this place of integrated wisdom, people lean in because they recognize the authenticity that comes from real experience. Edgar Cayce said that this wisdom makes mature women irresistible because they offer something precious in our culture: genuine depth and understanding. In a world full of surface-level interactions and social media facades, a woman who can speak from real experience and hard-won wisdom becomes magnetic. But Edgar Cayce emphasized that wisdom alone isn't enough, it must be shared with humility and compassion. The most irresistible mature women are those who offer their insights without judgment, who can guide without controlling, who can share their knowledge while remaining curious and open to learning more. Now, here's where all 6 habits come together in a way that Edgar Cayce said creates an almost mystical level of attractiveness. Edgar Cayce discovered something remarkable about these 6 habits: when practiced together, they create what he called a vortex of magnetism that makes a mature woman absolutely irresistible. Let me explain how this works. When you begin with inner radiance through spiritual alignment, you create a foundation of authentic power. Add mysterious reserve, and you become intriguing rather than overwhelming. Embrace your sensuality, and you become fully alive and present. Serve others from your unique gifts, and you become a channel for divine energy. Maintain sacred boundaries, and you demonstrate self-respect while creating safety for others. Cultivate your timeless wisdom, and you become a beacon of understanding in a confused world. According to Edgar Cayce, these habits don't just add to each other, they multiply, creating an exponential increase in your magnetic presence. But here's the secret Edgar Cayce discovered: these habits don't make you attractive to everyone, they make you irresistible to the right people. The people who are ready for depth, who value wisdom, who appreciate authentic beauty, who are looking for real connection rather than superficial interaction. Edgar Cayce said that mature women who embody these habits become selective magnets, attracting people and opportunities that align with their highest good while naturally repelling those who would drain their energy or waste their time. And the beautiful truth is that you already possess everything you need to develop these habits. Your maturity isn't a disadvantage, it's your secret weapon. Every challenge you faced, every lesson you've learned, every year you've lived has prepared you for this level of magnetism. Edgar Cayce believed that when a mature woman fully embraced these 6 habits, she didn't just become more attractive, she became more herself than she had ever been. He said that true magnetism wasn't about changing who you are, but about revealing who you've always been beneath the layers of conditioning and self-doubt. Here's what I want you to understand: you don't have to wait until you've perfected all 6 habits to start experiencing results. Edgar Cayce discovered that even focusing on 1 or 2 of these areas can begin to shift your energy and the way people respond to you. Start with the habit that resonates most strongly with you right now. Maybe it's the morning practice of inner radiance that calls to you. Perhaps it's time to set some sacred boundaries or embrace your authentic sensuality. Trust your intuition. Edgar Cayce believed that your soul knows exactly what it needs to develop first. But remember what Edgar Cayce said about the power of these habits: they work because they align you with spiritual law, not just psychology. When you embody these qualities, you're not just becoming more attractive, you're becoming more of who you were designed to be. I want to leave you with one final insight from Edgar Cayce that changed everything for me. He said that the difference between women who age into irrelevance and women who age into irresistibility is simply this: one group sees their maturity as decline, while the other sees it as refinement. You have a choice right now. You can accept society's narrative that your best days are behind you, or you can embrace Edgar Cayce's vision of mature feminine power, the understanding that your wisdom, experience, and spiritual development make you more magnetic than you've ever been. Edgar Cayce saw mature women who embodied these 6 habits, and he described them as luminous beings who had learned to shine with their own light. That's not just poetic language, it's your destiny if you choose to claim it. The question isn't whether you're capable of becoming irresistible. Edgar Cayce knew that you already are, you just need to remember how to let your light shine. Your journey to irresistible magnetism begins with a single step. Choose one habit, start today, and watch as the world begins to respond to the magnificent woman you're becoming. Because according to Edgar Cayce, the most powerful force in the universe is a woman who knows her worth and isn't afraid to show the world who she really is. Thank you so much for staying with me through this exploration. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. And if you'd like to go a step further in supporting this work, you can now leave a super thanks below. It's a small way to say thank you, and it truly helps keep this channel going.